Detroit is on fire this season. The Pistons are off to their best start in decades, sitting at 16-4 and even topping the Eastern Conference. They've rattled off win streaks that Detroit fans haven't seen since the mid-2000s. On the surface, everything is clicking. So what's the problem? Hidden in this success is a young star who isn't getting the usage he deserves. Jalen Duren, just 22 years old, might be the most misused young talent in the NBA right now. Sure, the Pistons are winning. Cade Cunningham is putting up big numbers as the lead ball handler, and Detroit's defense looks fierce. But beneath the hype, Duren's full arsenal is being left on the table. This team could be even scarier if they truly unlocked Duren. Think about that. Detroit might be good now, but they're still figuring out how to best unleash this monster on the rest of the NBA. And that monster is a 6'10", 250-pound athletic freak with skills we're only seeing in flashes.
Lobs it to Jalen for a jam! Back off, lob it inside. Jalen Duren with a jam!
You and he struck up a nice
three from behind the long line. They're up 17-9.
Jalen Duren has always been a physical specimen. A chiseled frame and jetpack explosiveness that lets him bully most opponents at the rim. He's often compared to a young Dwight Howard. In fact, he just became the first player since Dwight in 2010 to drop 30-plus points and 15-plus rebounds on 90% shooting. At 22, Duren controls the paint on both ends, leading the NBA's rebirth of tough-nosed Detroit defense. He shuts off the lane with fellow big Isaiah Stewart, and opponents shoot barely 58% at the rim against him. Elite rim protection territory. But Duren is far from just a brute dunker. This kid has skill. We've seen passing flashes, handles, even a developing mid-range touch. In last year's playoffs, Detroit quietly used Duren as a short-roll playmaker at times. He averaged 3.5 assists in the postseason, often hitting cutters from the elbow. He's shown he can put the ball on the floor when defenders ignore him, using surprising quickness to drive by slower centers. Training camp clips showed Duren hitting off-the-dribble jumpers and making plays for others. The potential is screaming to be unleashed. As one Pistons analyst put it, Duren's shown great fluidity in his handle and shot for a player of his size. He's still growing into those skills. Even in his current, somewhat constrained role, Duren is thriving. Through the early part of 2025 to 26, he's averaging around 20 points and 12 rebounds a night on absurd efficiency. We're talking 67% from the field and over 72% true shooting. Video game numbers. He's been the most effective roll man in basketball, scoring an absurd 1.46 points per possession as the dive man in pick and roll. For context, that's higher than even Nikola Jokic in that play type. Essentially, every time Duren dives to the rim, something good happens. He's converting over 81% of his shots as the roll man, often finishing with violent dunks or quick lay-ins. Duren is also a second-chance machine. He's pulling in 4 to 5 offensive boards per game and turning them into a league-leading 5.8 second-chance points each night. If there's an open lane, he's flying in for the lob or the tip slam. And get this, he's drawing a ton of fouls too, about 6.5 free throw attempts per game, and sinking them at approximately 85%. That soft touch at the line hints at future shooting ability, but more immediately it means you cannot just hack this guy. All these stats paint a picture of hyper-efficiency, high percentage shots, extra possessions from rebounds, free points at the stripe. By the numbers, Duren is a coach's dream big man. His player efficiency rating is hovering around 27, top 20 in the entire NBA. The Pistons outscore opponents by plus 14 points per 100 possessions when he's on the floor and get outscored by 7 when he's off. That plus 21 net rating swing is the kind of impact you only see from elite stars. So what's the catch? Usage. Despite those gaudy numbers, Duren is only occasionally featured in the offense. His usage rate is about 24 to 25%, solid but nowhere near a typical star's load. Cade Cunningham, for comparison, is around 31%, which is top 10 in the league. Duren's touches come mostly on opportunistic plays, pick and roll dives, putbacks, the occasional dump off. The Pistons have increased his involvement from last year, letting him handle the ball a bit more at the top of the arc and in dribble handoff actions. But it still feels like scraps compared to what he could be doing. As one Detroit outlet noted, he looks like a guy the Pistons should use more often. No kidding. The reason? Detroit's offense is still Cade Cunningham's show. Cunningham is a terrific young player, don't get me wrong. But the Pistons often live and die by Cade's decisions and shots. And boy, does Cade shoot. He's averaging nearly 22 field goal attempts per game at a modest 43% clip. We've even seen a wild 46-point outing where Cade hoisted 45 shots in an overtime game.
Yeah, a lot of that's just touch and feel. It comes as the season goes.
Up underneath. Cunningham, pull up Jay. Good. It's going to be an incredibly tough guard in Alex Sarr.
Yes, they won that game, but 45 attempts for one player is insanity in the modern NBA. It was one of the most inefficient high-volume performances ever, something even advanced stats gurus shook their heads at. Meanwhile, on that same team, you have Jalen Duren, a walking efficiency cheat code, at times watching from the sidelines or just setting screens while Cade runs the show. Now, Cunningham is Detroit's cornerstone star, the former #1 pick, the de facto floor general. Of course, the offense flows through him. But the balance seems off. There are possessions where Duren doesn't even get a look, despite mismatches inside or despite shooting 67% on the season. When Duren has it going, he can torch teams. Yet the Pistons sometimes forget about him for long stretches. Detroit is undefeated when Duren scores 20 or more. When he's actively involved in putting up points, they do not lose. Even on a smaller scale, when Duren gets at least roughly 6 shot attempts in a game, the Pistons' record is far better than when he's inexplicably limited to just 4 to 5 attempts. He doesn't need 20 shots a night, but feed the man G's. Good things will happen, I promise. Every now and then, we get a tantalizing glimpse of what a fully unlocked Jalen Duren might look like. Take Detroit's win against Indiana during that big streak. Duren exploded for 31 points and 15 rebounds on 12 of 13 shooting, absolutely wrecking the Pacers in the paint. He was catching lobs, bulldozing putbacks, even leading fast breaks. The Pacers had no answer. Detroit clinched its 10th straight win that night, largely because Duren was a force of nature. It leaves you asking, why can't that be a regular occurrence? Maybe the most eye-opening moment came on a single play in that game. Duren got the ball near the top of the key. Instead of handing off or waiting for a guard, he attacked. He pulled off a behind-the-back dribble, then a between-the-legs crossover looking more like a shifty guard than a hulking center, and calmly nailed a pull-up jumper from the free throw line.
Key to forecourt. Jalen Duren keeps that dribble, fires over Huff, fills it up! Whoa.
You'd think it was Kevin Durant out there, hitting that silky top of the key J. Once Indiana's defenders realized Duren was comfortable putting the ball on the floor and hitting from mid-range, you could almost see them panic, sag off, and he can hit the open 15-footer. It's the kind of play that should have the rest of the league terrified. Because if Duren consistently adds even a respectable jumper to his repertoire, it's game over. He becomes unguardable for most bigs. Duren is dominating in the narrow role he's given and also showing flashes that he can do way more. It's like having a sports car that's only allowed to drive in first gear, and it's still winning the race. Meanwhile, you catch a glimpse of second or third gear and realize this thing could leave everyone in the dust if let loose. That's the tension here. The Pistons have a potential superstar in their lineup, yet on many nights he's relegated to a supporting role. The misuse isn't that they're using him wrong in the things he does, it's that they aren't exploring the other dimensions of his game nearly enough. As one Pistons writer noted, fans have harped on what Duren can't do, but this year he improved on the things he does well and is becoming the ideal version of himself. If this ideal version is a 20-12 beast who is already stretching the limits of that role, imagine an even better version with a green light to expand his game. So what could Jalen Duren become if the Pistons truly unlocked his full bag? Let's put it boldly, we might be looking at Dwight Howard with a dash of Bam Adebayo. Dwight in his prime was a top 5 player and carried a team to the finals purely on athleticism and defense. Now give that player better passing instincts and a 15-foot jumper, which Bam has used to elevate his game. That's the trajectory Duren could be on if developed properly. The ceiling here is an all-NBA two-way anchor, a franchise cornerstone who could lift the Pistons from a feel-good playoff team to a true contender in the East. The scary part for the rest of the league is that Duren is still so young. He's only just turned 22 this November. Most players his age are just figuring out the speed of the NBA, and many big men don't hit their stride until their mid-20s. Duren is already a game changer. Detroit is plus 21 points per 100 with him on the court, an impact metric that screams elite. And as one writer put it, he's still not even the player he's going to be. That's a scary thought for opponents. If the Pistons keep nurturing his growth, while actually giving him the reins a bit more, we could see Duren evolve into a top-tier star faster than anyone expected. The Pistons have something special brewing. You can feel the excitement in Detroit. Cade Cunningham is emerging as a clutch leader. They're ahead of schedule in a lot of ways. But the difference between a fun, young playoff team and a future title contender might just be how they develop and utilize Jalen Duren. Right now, he's arguably the second best player on the team, and he's being a good soldier, staying in his lane as a dominant rebounder and roll threat. Detroit can continue with the status quo, which has been working pretty well, or they can supercharge their rise by unleashing this young star a little more. As an edgy basketball observer, I'll say it. If the Pistons don't realize what they have in Duren, they're doing a disservice to themselves. It's borderline criminal to have a guy putting up 20 and 12 on 72% true shooting and not milk that for all it's worth. We've seen the cautionary tales of young bigs being held back. The sooner you empower a talent like this, the higher your team's ceiling gets. And Detroit's ceiling with an unlocked Duren? In a few years, it could be sky high. We're talking an Eastern Conference powerhouse kind of high. The Pistons are good now, but unlocking Duren's full bag could make them great. It's time to take the muzzle off the young lion. Let Jalen Duren roar. The league might not be ready for what comes next.